In this video, I'm going to talk about how to actually scale your social media marketing agency, or SMMA. I just spent the last weekend with my fiance, who I'm getting married to in August, planning an African safari that we'll be taking for our honeymoon. This means that I'll be gone for 2 weeks. I'll be in the African bush, completely devoid of Wi-Fi, any connectivity. And a couple of years ago, our agency would have completely started on fire or ceased to exist in my absence. I'm sure that a lot of you watching this probably feel the exact same way. And you're wondering, how the heck am I ever going to get out of the business so that I can work on the business and take a sweet 2-week-long African safari? So the first thing that I want to talk about are some of the mistakes that we made early on that we see a lot of agency owners make themselves. The first thing is that we thought that because we could deliver the services and we were able to do it all ourselves, that we'd just be able to handle as many clients as we wanted for as long as we could. We made some really bad hires early on. It just didn't work out. It cost us a lot of money and we had heartburn on building a team. So what ended up happening was it was easy for us to hit 10K, 20K, 30K, even $40,000 per month. But when we hit 50K, we ran into some serious problems. It was the first time that we experienced really running out of time to actually fulfill the services for the agency. And we realized that in order to sustain $50,000 months, we were going to have to take a step back and really rebuild things from scratch. So if you're watching this right now and you're just hitting your first 10K month, or you're just getting your agency started to begin with, know that it's much better to build the things that I'm talking about in this video first, so that you have these things sorted out. So when you get to 50K per month, you can just continue on your journey, blast right past it, and not have any issues. The second big mistake that I see a lot of people making is they try and outsource everything before they actually know how everything should work. When you work for a large agency, think Cole McVoy or Olsen or some of these very large digital agencies, there's a hierarchy within the organization, and it's important to think like this, even though we don't necessarily want to become one of the biggest agencies in the world. That honestly sounds awful to me, but they have some things right. You're hired within these agencies and you're matched up with a mentor called a practice lead. This is typically your boss. That practice lead's job is to indoctrinate you into how that agency actually goes about fulfilling the services. So one agency might run Facebook ads or Google ads a different way than the other. So these people come on board and their job is to mentor you and make sure that you know how things work at that agency. In turn, you'll one day be promoted and you'll move into a practice lead position where your job will then be to mentor those that come after you. It's important to think like this when we run our agency. If you have no experience and you don't know how Facebook ads work, it's going to be very difficult for you to hire somebody to run Facebook ads and execute strategies for your clients. The third biggest mistake that I see a lot of people make, they don't actually have any process internally for their agency, and then they go and they hire a freelancer who they expect to solve everything. They find a Facebook ad manager who's $200 an hour, and they think that, hey, just because this person is expensive and they know what they're doing, they're going to be able to come into my business and they're going to go ahead and crush it. The problem with this line of thinking is you're not actually setting that person up for any type of success. Because you actually don't have any process within your business, there's literally no foundation for that person to stand on. It's up to them to build it themselves. And usually what ends up happening is that person gets frustrated, says, screw this, I'm going to go work for an agency that actually has a process. Now, there are some really big solves that you can use to avoid these altogether. Have a culture like we have where people love working for our business. So part one is that we actually want to have a structure and a repeatable process for our business. James Clear, in the amazing book Atomic Habits, talks about a number of different practical tactics that you can apply to your personal life to be a more productive person. Some of these can be directly applied to your business or your agency as well. A really good quote that always stuck with me is, you do not rise to the level of your effort, but you fall to the level of your systems. The same is true for our agency. The goal with your agency should be able to bring one client on board and have another client be on board and another client be on board, and for all of them to have a unified client experience. Client 1's iPhone should look identical to client 2's iPhone, exactly as the experience that you have when you purchase from Apple. So how do we go about actually achieving this? The first thing that you do is, when you're delivering services to your clients, is that you need to be thinking in terms of a repeatable process. This is why I love Go High Level so much. I'll actually drop a free funnel link in the description down below for you to actually take a look at how you can duplicate one strategy to the next. But the goal here is that you want to have a repeatable process between all of your clients. So this means the way that you go about onboarding them. This means the way that you go about getting them kicked off and getting permissions. Every single piece of fulfilling services should be a standard operating process. In our agency, every single one of these pieces is a checklist, and these days, as we've grown to a team of 25 all over the world, the team actually goes ahead and follows these checklists. They're called SOPs, you may have heard this term, or standard operating processes. So this means that when a client comes on board, we sign the agreement, we start onboarding them, we go through the exact same steps from one client to the next client client to the next client. This is also how we enable our team to be successful. So when they are hired, they're brought on and we train them on how to follow the standard operating process and why we follow that standard operating process. They're following our predetermined process so that we have a unified experience across all of our clients and predictable results. Now, if you're curious about all of our SOPs and all of our standard operating processes and what that looks like, and you'd like me to walk you through that from top to bottom, we cover this in great detail in our Ascension program. I'll drop a link to the Ascension program that has helped a ton of agency owners really bring clarity to their agency and put them in a position to scale in the link down below. For the Cliff Notes though, what I like to do is anything that I'm doing on a repeat basis, I want to turn into a standard operating process that I can train on somebody else to do. So what I will do is I'll say, hey, this is something that I've done a couple of times now, and I'll use a couple of pieces of software to go ahead and create the SOP. I like to use a tool called Tango, which will actually capture all of the screen clicks that I'm doing on the screen, and it will turn it into a PDF training document that documents the entire process from top to bottom. So all I need to do the next time I need somebody to take care of that task for me is send them the Tango link, which will walk them through it, or I'll create a Loom video, I'll walk through it from top to bottom, and then I'll send that over to my assistant Tanya, who will take care of turning that into a standard operating process that we can bake into our process moving forward. All these SOPs are in our project management software. For years and years and years, we were using a platform called Asana, which is what I'd recommend to really anyone. So now that we know that everything that we need to do on a repeat basis needs to be turned into a standard operating process, this is first of all going to enable us to scale ourselves. So even if you're the one initially fulfilling all of the services, you should be creating a standard operating procedure just for yourself and for your own processes. This is going to dramatically increase your own efficiency. It's going to save you a ton of time. If you can't scale yourself, you're not going to be able to scale a team. So part two, now that we have our standard operating processes in place, or we've at least started thinking about the standard operating processes that we can go ahead and create in our business, now we can start focusing on people. So we have a process that a new person that's hired onto the team can go ahead and fulfill on. Now we can start bringing people onto the team. So I like to think of 3 specific hires that are the best to get started with for a social media marketing agency. The first is an executive assistant, or as I like to call them, a jack of all trades. This is somebody who is directly going to assist you in time-intensive things that are easily trainable, that don't have a ton of client exposure. So this is somebody who's going to be helping you behind the scenes on the day-to-day. So things like pulling together agreements, creating proposals, sending out onboarding emails, and collecting requirements from clients, or even taking them through some of the onboarding. This is the first hire that we brought onto our agency, and I cannot tell you how much it dramatically increased the efficiency by removing things that we shouldn't have been doing off of our plate that could be easily fulfilled by somebody else. So this can be a really good low-risk hire to have immediate impact on your business without having to spend a ton of money on bringing this person on board. The second person that I recommend bringing onto the team is somebody to help you with lead gen. So you're probably spending a lot of time creating lists, pulling down lists, cleaning them up, getting them ready to be emailed out or called, or whatever it is that you're doing to get clients for your agency today. One of the best hires that we brought on early on was somebody who could help us create those lead lists, cleanse them, get them ready and polished to be going out. This again is somebody who is easily trainable. It's an easily repeatable task. And this is somebody who typically does not require a lot of capital to bring onto the team, but can have immediate impact. Now, the third hire that I recommend bringing on, especially once you have your standard operating processes in place, is a media buyer, or somebody who can help you scale your ads and run them for your clients. So out of the 3, this is going to be the most expensive, which is why I suggest that you bring them on third, because you can free up a lot of your time to continue running ads and fulfilling services using the first 2. Like I said, usually these folks like process. They like to have a specific standard operating procedure to stick to, which is why it's important to set them up for success by creating those first. They might bring some new ideas, they might have optimization strategies, but they need to have some structure and some foundation to stand on within your business in order to be successful. The next thing is focusing on our ongoing operations. So a couple of years ago, Derek and I made a sizable investment to bring on an operations leader. Now, the reason why we did this was we kept running into challenges when it came to maintaining our standard operating processes, making sure that things were being handled correctly, and that basically the trains within our business, if you will, were running on time. We built the train station, but when it came to actually making sure that things were running correctly, that was a big weakness for Derek and myself. So we read a book called Rocket Fuel, which is something that I would recommend everybody watching this video go ahead and read. But to give you the Cliff Notes version of Rocket Fuel, it basically defines two different types of people that are necessary to have in every business. You first of all have a visionary. This is the big thinker. This is the idea man. This is the person who's constantly thinking 10, 15 steps ahead, how to remain competitive, how to combat inflation, all these different things. The other person is called an integrator. The integrator's job is to make sure that the trains are running on time. They are the type A personality, they are the organizer, and they take all of the visionary's ideas, they package it up, and they make sure that it actually gets done based on the people within the organization. Now, the problem that Derek and I realized that we had that led us to bring on this person for $75 an hour for 20 hours a week is that Derek and I realized that both of us were visionaries. So what this meant was that we were really good at thinking of ideas, we were really good at remaining competitive, we were really good at thinking of ways to innovate and continue delivering a high level of service to our clients. But when it came to actually running the operations of our business, this was something that was like oil and water for us. No matter how hard we tried, we realized that this was a massive, massive weakness for us. It's just not a strength of the visionary. So what we ended up doing was bringing this person on board. Even though this person was a much higher hourly rate than anybody that we had on the team at the time, the impact that we felt of having this person on board took so much off of our plate. I really can't tell you guys how big of a quantum leap this was for our business. Now, if you're watching this video and you're starting a social media marketing agency, there's a pretty good chance that you fall into that visionary category. And I would suggest that you go to Upwork or Fiverr and find somebody who's an operations leader or what's called an online business manager who can help you operationalize and bring all of these things into an operationalized business for yourself. Now, if you're somebody who's super type A and you really don't like talking to people, you don't like being social, see if you can find somebody who can be a CEO or a sales leader within your organization to constantly be pushing the envelope higher and higher and higher when it comes to your revenue and to your new ideas so that you can focus on the operations and the fulfillment of services, making sure that everything is being done to a T and to spec within your agency. Bring on one of those key hires to assist you in your biggest weaknesses because you really can't do both within your organization. If you follow all these steps, you will be in a much better place to start scaling your agency. And of course, if you're interested in hearing more or having me walk you through every single piece of this, how we run it in our agency step by step, along with a lot of one-on-one coaching, you're going to want to check out the Ascension program. Again, I'll go ahead and link to that in the description down below if you want to go ahead and check that out. And a great video to watch after this one will be this one right here where I talk about the biggest social media trends to avoid in this year.